What would you do if you only had 6 months to live? It's a tough question, but we will all face it one day, whether or not we get a 6 months heads up or not. That is why today we are talking about Akira Kurosawa's 1952 film Ikiru, and how it delves into this question and into the meanings of life and what we ultimately seek while we are alive. So before I get into this video will deal with subjects like death and suicide. So if you're not comfortable with that, just so you know. We think to ourselves that we are not living our lives yet, that we are pushing through something and it's not worth it to feel enjoyment now, because our real lives, who we are meant to be, is coming up soon. So how destructive it must be to realize it will end while you are in the middle of it. That's what happens to our protagonist, Mr. Watanabe. His life becomes filled with distraught, and he has no idea what he's supposed to do. He finds it easier to tell strangers of his illness than his own son. He thinks back on every time of his life, and can't seem to find anything worth living in it. He just was. He devoted his life to his son after his wife passed, but all it meant was almost 30 years of work without a single day off. He was busy every day, but he never got any work done. This is where a debate about where life draws its meaning forms. This movie seems to take the stance that life has meaning because it is. The very existence of ourselves and others is enough to enjoy it. A different stance is that through reasoning we can determine the meaning of life, and eventually we can reason that there is no meaning. It is short and ultimately goes for nothing, hence a life has no value. The movie addresses this head on. One of Watanabe's co-workers reads a joke that goes something like this: I haven't taken a day off in 30 years. Not because they couldn't run this place without me. No, I didn't want them to realize that this place doesn't need me. We all thought that, no matter where we are, there is a replacement in line ready to take our spot. The world was running fine before we stepped in on the scene, and it will continue to do so when we leave. Watanabe considers suicide. What difference will 6 months make for his whole life? But he can't bring himself to do it. Something in him wants to live. Once a person comes to the conclusion that life is meaningless, it can be just as much liberating as it is daunting. For one, there's nothing to prove. The stakes of everyday life no longer feel overwhelming. There's nothing to believe in, spectacular. But there still tends to be a want to live. Many people have come to this conclusion that life is without value, but they keep going. I personally would never want to see someone cut their own life short just because they decided one day it was without meaning. If there's nothing to believe in, but you're conscious, then the meaning of life may be whatever you put on to it. Life is meaningless, which means you can give however much meaning you want to anything. You can push aside petty issues and small mistakes and keep a better focus on personal relationships and what you really want to keep. Life may be meaningless, but you are still yourself. You still have this time. It may be the only brief moment in the entire history of the universe you get to witness anything, so enjoy it. But I don't see this line of thinking that I presented to be confused with another common line of thinking, that life has meaning because it ends. I think it is alright to be sad that you won't have your relatives and friends with you forever. It is okay to admit that. I personally think I would still love everyone around me, even if I knew they would live forever. Still. So I don't want to think meaning in life derives from the fact that it ends. Some will claim that knowing you won't live forever is what motivates us to do things today, to tell your loved ones that you love them, and to get your work done. That can be true, and I agree that as a consequence of not living forever, we should make sure we tell people whom we love our love for them. Life is fleeting and can be suddenly stopped at any second. But I don't see that as where the meaning comes from, but a symptom of the meaning. With life, it is not a destination, it is the journey. It is every second you get to live. This movie includes a character who tells Watanabe that greed is seen as a vice, but shouldn't be seen as that when it comes to life. We should all be greedy for life. Another thing is, we all know that our lives end, but still doesn't stop us from pushing things for tomorrow. We are only human. We cannot perfectly wrap up each day, so it'll be okay just in case we die overnight. I heard once that we will all die with a to-do list. That seems to be perfectly true. So, what conclusion does our protagonist come to? He does a lot of soul searching to find what he should be doing now that there isn't much time left. He meets with a coworker and essentially interrogates her, wanting her to tell him how she is so lively. He expects a big secret, but she doesn't have a clear answer. All she knows is that she quit her job from the town hall because it was too boring and not the life for her. She went to a toy making job because she just sees the little things, saying, I feel like I am a mother to every baby in Japan. That is the conclusion Watanabe comes to. There is no answer. Perhaps we will never find anything, but there's so much to enjoy every day. There's so much to enjoy from bringing joy to others. To respect others' existence is a very important value to me. I believe that if one values their own life, they should value the lives of all others, as no one would be anything if there's no one else but them. Interestingly, Watanabe uses his bureaucratic job that he found as meaningless to accomplish one simple goal: to build a park for children. The park was the idea of the citizens. They wanted it to replace a cesspool that had developed by their land. However, every single apartment they go to just sends them to another department, till eventually it circles. Watanabe decides he is going to get that park built, and to do so, he will bring together every department if he has to. Knowing that he will die, he devotes his time to it, and he doesn't worry about his career. He even defies the deputy mayor's word after the mayor tells him casually that the plan should just be cancelled. He stays still, unwavering, and asks him to reconsider. It seems trivial, even small. It is a very simple act, but the movie treats it as important and dignified, a complete break from what he was supposed to do. But he came there because he knew life was meaningful. He became wiser than his peers because he put the importance of life and being good over everything else. Busy work and institutions did not mean the same to him anymore. We hear from all his co-workers at his wake as they try to debate whether or not he was responsible for building the park. The deputy mayor's anger that the reporters seemed to think Watanabe deserves the credit, and that the deputy mayor's speech did not include Watanabe and sounded more like a campaign speech when the park opened. He justifies himself by saying that the dead Watanabe would agree with him, that the bureaucratic process included a lot of people. I interpret this to show that everything will continue to go as it does, that the deputy mayor will continue his work as he did before. However, in a brilliant scene, the deputy mayor must awkwardly sit there as a group of grieving citizens cry about Watanabe. The directing is very good throughout. We see how the politicians don't really know how to act, seeing true tears towards this man's death, other than just being quiet. The scene where Watanabe leaves a restaurant smiling while a group of young people cheerfully greet a young woman entering the restaurant for her birthday is so good in its simplicity and meaning. Same when early in the movie he is quietly walking before stepping onto the street where suddenly all the noises of the bustling cars become apparent. But all the scenes are perfectly framed, and all the characters feel as if they are exactly where they should be. One scene that will stick with me is the last time we see Watanabe. He quietly sings in a peaceful happiness on the swing set in the park he built. He found enjoyment in that, meaning in that. We are beyond small in the universe. I have never seen what we are that matters. It's how we put ourselves together that matters. I don't have all the answers. I don't have most of them. But we are currently living a life that is ours, and we must accept that it ends, that it is small, that it may change very little, that it is beautiful, and that the relationships we built along the way were worth it for us and for them, and that we lived, and that we are living right now. Watanabe didn't do much to change anything about his life. He continued to work at the same place, but he did change how he went about it. After he changed how he perceived it, he was appreciated for that. Watanabe felt different from his son. His son misinterpreted his actions and had led to a split, but Watanabe still left behind everything his son would need to keep going. In his life he gave, and even if that is meaningless, it is still more meaningful than taking. When he was asked if he hated the gentleman who continued to veto his proposal, he said, "No, I do not hate anyone. I do not have time for that." Perhaps we need to live by that too. When one of the characters remembers this, suddenly everyone realizes that Watanabe did know he was going to die. They had debated why he had changed. But it seems that was not what Watanabe was worried about while he was alive. He didn't worry about how he would be remembered. He just wanted to get something done for the community. As he said, we can get anything done if we put our mind to it. There is meaning in the small things, the things we do every day to keep ourselves and others running, that we don't think about, but are important. Most of us won't be remembered for many decades after we die. It will only be a few generations, but that shouldn't be our worry. We should continue to strive to be better anyway, especially for those around us. We must give and not expect much in return. Then we can be selfless like Watanabe in his final months. It is what we do with our time. This is what makes the film so impactful, because despite the tragic subject material, it is hopeful. It shows that we can break free sometimes. It shows that humans have sympathy, and it is one of our best qualities. It is painfully sad to see him on that swing set. Like the deputy mayor said, it's like a scene out of a play. But he gets to have it. I'll just say quickly that Takashi Sumura played this role perfectly. See how well he changes just in the simple way he acts before and after he finds out about his death. And yeah, the movie is a little 50s. Sometimes, interpret that as you like, but this is a great movie. And when Watanabe is on that swing set, he is not sad. He is glad that he has lived, and glad that he accomplished this part. His life meant something. Life is brief, but so wonderful. Feels like I haven't looked at a sunset in 30 years, he says one day, thinking about how he should just see the beauty that is just there. The fact that we get to have all of this is amazing. So we should be good today to ourselves and others, not because we end, but just because we are here.